The lunchroom went completely silent the moment the little boy looked up from his tray, pointed toward the woman sitting alone with nothing but a cup of water, and asked, "Dad, can she eat with us?" Every fork stopped moving. Every conversation faded into an awkward hush. Some people looked away, pretending not to notice. Others watched with quiet curiosity, expecting the father to gently change the subject, as most people would. Instead, the single dad slowly pushed back his chair, stood to his feet, and did something no one in that crowded cafe would ever forget. If you believe that kindness can change lives, that forgiveness is stronger than pride, and that hope deserves another chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share this story with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel so our community can continue sharing heartfelt journeys like this one. Every weekday at noon, Grant Mercer and his 8-year-old son, Owen, shared lunch together at a small family cafe across from the hardware store where Grant worked as a maintenance supervisor. It had become their tradition after Grant rearranged his schedule to spend every lunch break with his son. Ever since Owen's mother passed away 3 years earlier after a long illness, Grant had promised himself that no matter how busy life became, his son would never eat another lunch feeling alone. Money was never abundant. Bills arrived faster than paychecks. Their little apartment was modest, and Grant often skipped buying new clothes for himself so Owen could join school field trips or play soccer with his classmates. Yet despite every hardship, Grant believed love was measured by presence, not possessions. Owen had inherited his mother's gentle heart. He noticed the things adults usually ignored. He thanked bus drivers, smiled at lonely neighbors, and always carried an extra granola bar in his backpack because, as he often said, someone might forget theirs. Grant admired that kindness but quietly worried the world might someday teach his son to stop caring so deeply. That afternoon the cafe was especially crowded. Office workers filled nearly every table. Families laughed over sandwiches, and construction crews hurried through quick meals before returning to work. Near the window sat a woman who looked as though she wished she could disappear. Her coat was clean but worn thin. Her hands trembled around a paper cup of water. She stared at the menu without ordering, occasionally reaching into her purse only to close it again with visible disappointment. Most people noticed her for only a second before returning to their own conversations. Owen kept watching. When their meals arrived, he quietly looked at his father, then back toward the woman. Without hesitation, his innocent question broke through the noisy room. "Dad, can she eat with us?" Grant followed his son's gaze. For several seconds he simply watched the woman. He recognized something familiar in her tired expression. It wasn't hunger alone. It was the painful effort of pretending everything was fine while hoping nobody would notice the truth. Instead of answering immediately, Grant stood. He picked up both their trays and calmly walked toward the woman's table. People nearby exchanged confused glances. Grant smiled warmly and asked if she would allow 2 friendly lunch companions to join her because his son believed nobody should have to eat alone. The woman's eyes filled instantly. She admitted she hadn't planned to eat at all. She had spent her last few dollars on bus fare after losing her apartment earlier that week. She had come into the cafe mostly because it was warm, hoping she could rest for a few minutes before continuing her search for work. Grant quietly returned to the counter. Many assumed he would simply buy her lunch. Instead, he surprised everyone again. He asked the cashier for the microphone normally used to announce ready orders. The room fell silent as he thanked everyone for listening. He explained that he wasn't asking anyone for money. He wasn't organizing a fundraiser. He simply wanted to remind everyone that loneliness often sits closer than we realize. Then he carried his own untouched lunch back to the woman's table and placed it gently in front of her. He told Owen they could split the sandwich they had packed in his backpack because sharing always tastes better than eating alone. The cafe remained completely still. Then something extraordinary happened. An elderly couple quietly sent over 2 bowls of soup. A teenager offered unopened fruit from his lunch. A businesswoman paid for fresh coffee and dessert. The cafe owner prepared a hot meal without charging anyone. Within minutes, the lonely table became the warmest place in the entire restaurant. The woman introduced herself as Clara Whitmore. She had worked for nearly 20 years at a small printing company before it suddenly closed. She had cared for her aging father until his passing only months earlier. Medical expenses had drained her savings. After missing several rent payments while searching unsuccessfully for another job, she had lost her apartment. Everything had unraveled so quickly that she still struggled to believe it herself. Grant listened without judgment. He understood that misfortune often arrives faster than people imagine. Years earlier, after losing his wife, he had nearly lost hope as well. Friends helped him through those impossible months, reminding him that accepting kindness was not weakness. When lunch ended, Grant didn't simply wish Clara good luck. He wrote down the address of the hardware store. He explained that they needed someone reliable to organize inventory records temporarily while one employee recovered from surgery. The position wasn't glamorous, but it offered honest pay and the chance to rebuild. Clara tried to decline. She worried she looked exhausted. Grant smiled and replied that character always mattered more than appearances. The following morning, Clara arrived early. She worked carefully, politely, and tirelessly. Within days everyone noticed her remarkable attention to detail. Shelves became organized. Missing inventory finally made sense. Old paperwork was sorted into perfect order. Customers appreciated her kindness. Co-workers respected her humility. The temporary position soon became permanent. Weeks passed. Color slowly returned to Clara's face. She rented a small apartment. She replaced her worn shoes. For the first time in months, she laughed without forcing herself. Every Friday she joined Grant and Owen for lunch. Those lunches became less about food and more about friendship. Owen never understood why adults called his kindness extraordinary. To him, inviting someone to eat simply felt normal. One afternoon, while cleaning an old storage room at the hardware store, Clara discovered several dusty filing boxes scheduled for disposal. Inside she found forgotten paperwork revealing thousands of dollars in unpaid manufacturer rebates the business had never claimed. Grant brought the documents to the owner. After careful verification, the company recovered enough money to renovate the store, increase employee benefits, and provide raises to every worker. The owner repeatedly thanked Clara. She quietly smiled toward Owen. None of it would have happened if one little boy hadn't noticed someone everyone else ignored. Life continued moving forward. Grant finally began believing happiness could exist alongside grief. Although he still missed his wife every day, he realized healing didn't mean forgetting. It meant carrying love forward through acts of compassion. Months later the local newspaper published a story about everyday heroes after hearing customers describe the unforgettable lunch in the cafe. Photographs showed Grant, Owen, and Clara smiling together. The article spread quickly across neighboring towns. Letters began arriving. One reader admitted she had reconciled with her estranged sister after reading the story. Another volunteered at a community kitchen for the first time. A retired teacher began paying for school lunches anonymously. Small acts multiplied into larger ones. Grant often reminded Owen that kindness was like planting trees whose shade you might never personally enjoy. One spring afternoon nearly a year after their first lunch together, the cafe owner invited regular customers to celebrate the restaurant's anniversary. The dining room buzzed with cheerful conversation. Families gathered around familiar tables. Grant looked across the room and noticed something beautiful. A young college student had invited an elderly man sitting alone to join his table. Nearby, another family welcomed a tired delivery driver to share dessert after learning he had skipped lunch. Nobody seemed embarrassed. Nobody acted as though kindness required permission. It had quietly become part of the cafe's culture. The owner later admitted that business had actually improved after people began treating strangers like neighbors instead of inconveniences. As everyone enjoyed the celebration, Clara stood to thank Grant and Owen. She explained that people often believed the greatest gift someone could receive was money. For her, the greatest gift had been dignity. When she had nothing left, a little boy saw her as a person instead of a problem. A father chose compassion instead of comfort. That single lunch had restored not only her future but also her faith that goodness still existed. Grant gently shook his head. He believed Owen deserved the credit. Children often see people more clearly because they haven't yet learned to look away. Owen simply smiled, slightly embarrassed by the attention. He admitted he had only asked one question. Everyone else had answered it. Before this story comes to its close, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment sharing a time when someone showed you unexpected kindness, or tell us how you hope to make a difference in someone else's life. Your words may encourage another person who needs hope today. As the afternoon sunlight streamed through the cafe windows, Grant realized the greatest lesson he could ever teach his son had never come from speeches or advice. It had come from ordinary moments when compassion demanded courage. Standing up for someone who felt invisible had cost him only a meal, yet it had changed countless lives in ways he never could have predicted. Owen learned that day that kindness is never wasted, even when the results cannot be seen immediately. Clara learned that asking for nothing sometimes opens the door to receiving everything that truly matters. And everyone who witnessed that quiet act of generosity carried home a reminder that the strongest people are often those who choose compassion when no one expects it. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember, the smallest act of kindness can become the beginning of someone else's greatest comeback, and sometimes the question that changes a life is as simple as, "Can she eat with us?"